right, we are coming off of a very, very fun Thursday night football game to kick off week 16 of the NFL season, which saw the Los Angeles Chargers defeat the Denver Broncos 34-27. If you are new to the channel, we're going to start with just my instant reaction, opening monologue, if you will, overall thoughts, and then we are going to flip the screens, go into some of the stats, and dive into some of the numbers. So if you're more of an analytics guy, don't worry, I gotcha there. But my opening thoughts on this are just, there is a new era of Chargers football, and we are witness to it right now, because the Chargers of what feels like the last, I don't know, all of my life basically would have lost this game. And not only would they have lost it, but they would have lost it in the fashion that the Denver Broncos lost this game, truthfully. It would have been a Charger collapse. Somehow they would have lost out the rest of this season and missed the playoffs. Ultimately, Charger fans know all too well, that's just kind of been the direction of their franchise. But in this game, the Chargers, who are down pretty decently at halftime, 21-13, but it felt like all the momentum was Denver's way. That's pretty much what it felt like. That late free kick that we haven't seen since 1976 was a little bit of a momentum shift going into halftime, but Denver was clearly controlling this game. And Team Harbaugh, the Chargers, they go into the halftime break. They go in, they make their adjustments. The defense is excellent in the second half, only allowing 6 points. They win the second half 21-6. They rely on Justin Herbert to make plays offensively. And this is truly the embodiment of this new Chargers team, new Chargers culture, whichever way you want to spin it, because it's not the most loaded roster. They could use some more talent. The defense the last couple of weeks has been exposed a little bit, whether it was by Lamar or Baker. Just in the second half of the schedule, they are facing tougher opponents. The defensive lack of, full talent is showing itself. Obviously on offense, a rookie wide receiver in Ladd McConkey, who's a second round pick, who's a really good kid, but he's not, a true legit Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson level one, is the number one option on this team. And then it's like, hey, we'll see who else steps up. I believe Justin Herbert's first 8 passes in this game were to 8 different receivers. That is what the Chargers are working with. But this game completely signified and completely showed a shift in their culture. And honestly, I don't think this is even anything against the Broncos. Again, their over-under win total for the season was set at 5.5 games. Here they are on the verge of a winning season. Here they are on the verge of making the playoffs since the first time since 2016. The last playoff game the Denver Broncos had was Super Bowl 50 with Peyton Manning at quarterback and that great defense. So both of these teams are very much so headed in the right direction. The AFC West is about to have some really good competition. You're going to have, of course, the back-to-back champions in the Chiefs, this Chargers, this Broncos team that are looking formidable, and the Raiders, who are so bad that they're probably going to earn themselves the number 1 overall pick. Let's dive into some of the stats here. Let's start off with the team stats here. I think, really important to highlight how close this game was. 22-23 first downs. I mean, identical passing and rushing first downs. The total yards, we're looking at a 25 yardage difference. Not too much different in terms of passing. The big team stat here is the penalties, right? The Chargers, 2 penalties for 8 yards. The Broncos, 7 for 61. Again, I think that goes in to highlight some of what I was talking about with this new era Chargers coaching. Being a Chargers fan, I can only imagine what kind of a breath of fresh air it is to go from Brandon Staley and a very poorly coached team to Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minter, who could turn around this defense in the second half that was getting gashed in the first half, and they don't even allow a touchdown. It must just be like opening your eyes and seeing color for the first time. That's all I could really imagine it is too. But again, the Broncos played a decent game. We go ahead and we just look at the general box score here. I thought Justin Herbert was really phenomenal in this game. 23 of 31, 284 yards and a 110 passer rating. That touchdown throw that he had to, I believe it was to give the Chargers the lead, where he is falling. The ball gets tipped, but he has enough velocity on it to still get it to the receiver. That was just a very, very crazy play. I believe that was Darius Davis who caught that touchdown. Really insane stuff. The 2-point conversion, the hand-eye coordination from Josh Palmer to, again, another tipped ball to be able to reel it in, keep his feet in bounds. The Chargers had some really, really big plays in the second half from their offensive personnel. The Gus Edwards 44-yard run, and then the Hassan Haskins screen that kind of put this game on ice. Like, a lot of plays being made from unlikely suspects, but Justin Herbert, the head of this ship, you have to give him a ton of credit. And Bo Nix, man, on the other side, I had some doubts coming into this year as to just how good Bo Nix could be, but the Broncos got their franchise quarterback. Win or lose in this game, 29 of 40 for 263, 2 touchdowns, and a 106.6 passer rating. He's been much better than I expected. And truthfully, we'll see how this season ends out for Washington, but with games versus the Eagles and then the Falcons, and I believe Dallas, there's a world. I think Bo Nix for rookie of the year should really be on people's radar. I think that could really happen because while Jaden dominated the first half, Bo Nix very likely is going to lead the Broncos to a playoff berth, and not a lot of people saw that coming with the talent on this roster. Audric Estime ends up kind of taking over as that lead back in this game. He was really solid in the first half. The Broncos couldn't get that rushing attack going in the second half, and they tried to get Marvin Mims more involved. I think rightfully so. Guy's clearly an explosive weapon. Him, Sutton, Javonte with 7 catches in this game. And you look at the other side, it's McConkey, 6 for 87, and then it's a bunch of, what do we got? I think this upcoming offseason, both of these teams should be heavy in the market for T. Higgins, heavily pursuing getting weapons for their guys. I know at the trade deadline, the Broncos were in on David Njoku. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw those trade talks reheat up around the draft, but ultimately in this spot, I do think just the team with the better head coach and quarterback combo won out. And in the NFL, that can get you a long way. And Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, I think it's a top 5 duo in the league. I truthfully do, in terms of what you got at head coach, what you got at quarterback. Herbert has definitely cemented himself in that top 8 quarterback conversation this year. Obviously, Justin Herbert, the quote-unquote king of hypotheticals, however you want to call it, this year, without very many weapons, is going to lead his team to the playoffs. They just have to win one of 2 games versus the Patriots and Raiders over the next 2, and the Raiders are just kind of actively trying to lose games at this point, so I'd be shocked if it didn't happen there, but it certainly could happen versus New England next week too. And the Broncos, man, it is an interesting road ahead for them because they could potentially lose out. And if they lose out and the Bengals win out or the Colts win out or the Dolphins win out, I believe, there's a certain order where Denver could lose their playoff spot. I think the most interesting is, of course, the Bengals. I've kind of talked about this, but getting Joe Burrow into the playoffs as a 7 seed would be a scary sight. Ultimately, my guess is Denver gets it done, but Denver versus Cincinnati next week becomes a really, really big game because Cincinnati should be able to handle DTR and the Browns this Sunday. Nothing against DTR, but Jameis is probably the better quarterback, so it looks like the Browns are kind of moving in a decision of, we'll see what we got in this guy, but moving up the draft board isn't exactly a bad thing for us at this point, whereas the Bengals got life, man, and that Week 17 game between Broncos and Bengals gets a hell of a lot more interesting, and then Week 18, if the Broncos were to lose to the Bengals, man, they got the Chiefs, who we'll see. They win the next 2 weeks, they lock up the 1 seed, so they could be resting guys, and the Bengals would have the Steelers, who they beat Baltimore and then win the week after, probably are locked into the 3 seed, so they could potentially be resting guys. So a lot to shake out here. From an NFL fan standpoint, not a Broncos fan, not a Chargers fan, not a Bengals fan, this was probably the most interesting outcome. And here we are. So I'm pretty happy with it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. We are on the road to 100 subscribers. We're 4 away at this point. So, it's getting a little late to get in that club. But if we have already passed it at this point, it could be one of the first people in the first 200. If you love the NFL, instant reactions to primetime games, I'll be up here Saturday, potentially after each game, maybe just after the night game. We'll be up here Sunday after the Sunday night game to talk about that. Then Monday to talk about everything. And Monday Night Football. I love doing these instant reaction videos. The Tuesday tier list, of course, and just kind of discussing general topics. I got a video out on the channel right now about the Jets news that came out today, the Falcons benching Kirk Cousins. So all your NFL needs are right here on this channel, man. I'm trying to grow a big community here. People just love to talk ball. So drop all your thoughts in the comment section down below, answering all comments. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.